I'm Sean from Bob's Bicycles here in Boise, Idaho, and today we're going to be going over how to winterize your bike. Being that it's fall outside, a nice rainy day like today, people are thinking about putting their bikes away for the winter, and there's some things that you need to pay attention to get that bike ready to be put up, so that in the springtime or whenever you're ready to ride, you can pull it out with some small details, air in the tires, things like that, and you can be rolling again in the spring. So this is a mountain bike, so we'll go over some stuff particular to mountain bikes, but also particular to just about any bike. It'll pertain to a lot of different bikes. So the first thing we're going to do when we get a bike in the shop is we're going to clean it. We're going to wash it and clean it. We'll use dishwashing soap or Simple Green, something that is a detergent, but it's not too harsh. It'll remove grease off your bike without displacing it a whole lot. Take the grease from the chain and then you add it to the wheel, kind of thing. So just something real simple. Anybody can do it with a bucket at home, and that's what we use out back. So we'll go ahead and clean the bike off. We'll try not to put a lot of pressure or hose water in any areas where there are bearings that have grease in them. We don't want to remove that grease. So any areas or junctions, headset, bottom bracket, into the wheels, we want to try not to spray a lot of water in there because that will displace the grease from there, and we don't want to have that happen. We just want to remove any exterior grease and dirt, debris from the bike is all we're looking to achieve. So you don't have to scrub too hard, no green scrubbies, just a washcloth works pretty good. This is what we use in the shop, just little cotton shop towels, and they're pretty simple. We don't have to scrub too hard to get it done. So after we get the bike washed, we're going to let it air dry for a little bit, remove some of that moisture. Once we get it into our bike stand, we're actually going to take an air hose, and we've got a nozzle on it. We're going to spray and remove a lot of that extra moisture from the bike, displace that water just to make sure that it's not sitting around, or we're adding oil at some point to water. It just doesn't mix very well. So once we get the bike washed, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on the drivetrain. Your bike comes from the factory, and if you've been riding all summer, has lubricant on the chain. Chances are around Boise, you've also got some dirt, some dust, or some sand attached to that lubricant on your chain. So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to strip down the chain using a degreaser. Here at Bob's we use a White Lightning Clean Streak degreaser, and this is what we've been using for at least 5 years. Recommend it, sell it, works pretty good, but any degreaser will work. So all we're going to do is we're going to spray it on the rag. Avoid spraying it on the bike, just because it's hard to control where it goes, even though it does have a little straw on it. And we're just going to grab a hold of the chain firmly, and we're just going to spin it and drag all that dirt. Any leftover oil and stuff will start coming off on your rag. And all we're looking to do is mainly remove that dirt and any of the exterior grease that's on there. We don't have to get the gasoline out. We don't have to get some crazy astringent on here to remove that. The degreaser works really well for what it is we need it to do. So once we get the drivetrain cleaned off, the next thing we're going to do is the opposite. We're going to add some lubricant to it. Not all bike lubricants are created equal, and/or they are designed for different purposes. Two different oils from the same company. This is a winter or a high moisture, a thicker lubricant, chain lube, and this is a lighter product. So for low moisture. So this is something we put on during the summer because it attracts less dirt, and we don't have to worry about the moisture as much during the summer. That dirt on your drivetrain is what really breaks down your drivetrain and causes issues, either needing to replace the chain or gears. something like that. This is a high moisture product. It's a lot thicker. So during the winter or in rainier times of the year, early spring, this is a product that we use. This is Demontech. Both of them are. But the thicker product we don't use in the summer because, again, it attracts a lot more dirt. It's a lot thicker and gummier and things tend to stick to it. But we don't need to worry about the dust in the winter when there's a lot of moisture contact in the air. So what we do is now that we have a stripped chain, we would do the opposite, and we would apply this directly to the chain, usually back here at the cassette, and as we spin it, it's lightly gonna drip out, and as it comes in contact with that chain, it's going to deposit oil on the interior of the chain. So we would add a liberal amount to that, let it sit probably for about 15-20 minutes while we do some of the other work on the bike. And then at some point, one of our last parts of our checklist for the bike is we're going to remove any of that excess grease or oil. We need it on the inside of the chain, not the exterior of the chain. It just attracts dirt. So we need it on the interior of the chain where all the moving parts and the gears are actually coming in contact with the chain. So remove any of that excess oil at that point. So now that we've got our drivetrain cleaned and re-lubed, the next thing we're going to worry about is your cables. Any of your shifting cables, your rear derailleur, front derailleur, they all have cables that actuate and are moved by adjusting those shifters. So all we're going to do is you can disconnect everything if you're not going to use it all summer, but then you've got to reconnect it in the spring. So there are ways you can put it in one gear that allows it to adjust, and I'll do that right now with the rear derailleur. Basically, I'm just going to move that chain all the way up into its largest gear, and then without turning the cranks or anything, I'm just going to go ahead and release all the tension by dropping that derailleur, taking the tension off, dropping that derailleur all the way down. What that's going to allow me to do now is take the tension off the cable so I can access the interior of the cable. And we can do this in various spots throughout the bike. We'll just concentrate on this part for now. And then we want to use a tri-flow lubricant, which is a penetrant. They also have these handy little spouts, but it also has got a nice little drip nozzle. So just by hand, you can drop it down into the housing itself along the cable, kind of move it around a little bit, shake it, and it will make its way down through that cable. Doesn't take a lot of oil to make that happen. The natural properties of it will cause it to graduate down through the housing itself. Just let it sit for a little bit, and we would do that at that point on the front derailleur. We would do it up here at the shifter housing junctions as well. We'd go through that whole process and let it sit, and then we'd go back and reconnect everything, and it's really simple to do. With the back here, we're just going to feed the housing back in there, and then all we have to do to get it back into alignment is start turning the crank so that the chain will get back to where it's supposed to be, and that'll cause now tension in there. I can't get it apart, so now it's a sealed product again with oil inside of it. So that'll help keep moisture out and from accumulating and or rusting whilst it sits during the winter. By actually moving that chain around and going through the gears once we get them all reconnected, by shifting those gears, we're actually moving the cable back and forth in there, and it's going to help distribute the oil evenly throughout the inner of the housing.